I have a new favorite book. It is Mary, An Awakening in Terror by Nat Cassidy. I mentioned this book on Labor Day, saying it was one of the books I might get into. Once I started reading it, I could not put it down. It is Thursday right now. I finished it yesterday or the day before. I don't remember. I'm kind of in a haze. But it was just so good. I could not put it down. It had me from the author's note. In the author's note, he mentions like his relationship with his mom, but he also says that when he was a little kid, one of his favorite things was to go through the movie store or like the video rental store and look at the horror movies, right? And he just was fascinated by the covers of these movies. The one that disturbed him the most was Carrie, and he just said that she just looked, it was just like seared into his brain and it terrified him. So finally he asked his mom, like, what's this movie about? Because like he just needed context. And his mom explains to him that Carrie actually isn't that evil. It was just more the things that were done to her and what made her snap. And he was just kind of just intrigued from that point. So the first chapter opens up in 1969 and you have the POV of a police officer. He has arrived at a crime scene. It is in the mayor's mansion of their small town, and there are dead bodies all over the house. There's a corpse in the bathtub, and that's where, you know, the story opens up. The woman is like all the other bodies. She's naked with the pillowcase over her face, and he already knows that if he pulls off the pillowcase, her face has been sliced off and her fingertips have been sliced off to prevent anyone from identifying her. So he feels sick about this, and he's kind of giving some clues about the town that's like a little eerie, a little weird, always has like an evil vibe to it. And one of the other bodies is Victor Cross, the mayor, and he's been decapitated, but there is a note by his body that says, I knew. So he says like he knows who the murderer was and he knows who it was doing. The murderer is his brother, I think it's David, it's a D name, I forgot. But the other cop starts yelling, hey, we got him, and that he's running in the walls because this house is in New Mexico. So before air conditioning, they had crawl spaces to circulate air. So he's running through the walls. And as they gun him down, a baby girl is born in the town. And now we flash forward to April in like 1975, and this woman, Bettina, is getting to work. She works at a desert museum that just has like bugs and like random little things. It's just one of those tiny museums. And she mentions that the day before there was a school trip with a bunch of 6-year-olds, and it was just like they were just working her nerves. But on this day, as she's getting into the museum, she notices that there is glass broken and it looks like the place has been broken into. She's very cautious. She goes in, but what she finds is this little girl eating the bugs out of the cases. And she's even eaten the scorpions and like expertly bitten the tail off, like the poisonous part. And she asks the little girl who taught her to do this, and she says, oh, he knew because he was in the walls. She just gives him this abstract thing. And Bettina says like she couldn't get a hold of the little girl's parents. She finally gets a hold of the little girl's aunt, Nadine, and Nadine comes and picks her up. But she's like, she never mentioned this to anybody because that little girl was like, something about her was odd and repulsive to her, where she just like didn't want anything to do with her afterwards. And she felt bad having that thought, but that's how she felt. So finally, we get to Mary's perspective. She is the main character. She's a woman that's 49, about to be 50, and you can assume she is a little girl that was born, and, you know, the little girl that Bettina was talking about in an earlier chapter. She's all grown up, and she has gone through life feeling invisible. She tries to be good. She keeps talking about having to be good, saying the right thing, not having bad thoughts, and it's like a very concentrated effort to be good, but she just seems like an average middle-aged woman. And she goes to see the doctor, and she's trying to explain these symptoms that she has, and the doctor is just very dismissive towards her. Just like, you know what, you're perimenopausal, that's all it is. The hot flashes, the insomnia, the hallucinations because you're sleep deprived, on and on. So she doesn't feel like he's taking her seriously enough to tell him the things that are really bothering her, so she just leaves. And the things that are really bothering her is that she cannot look at her own reflection in the mirror or any woman that's near her age. As soon as she as soon as she looks at someone her age or her reflection, she sees their faces start to decompose. And it's like described very disgusting and gory, like boils, pustules, like just like nasty. And that's how she sees people deteriorating. So if she sees someone her age, she looks away. She doesn't try to look at her reflection. And that's like what has been bothering her the most. She goes to work and she says she's a good worker. She does everything the way she's supposed to, while her younger coworkers kind of just like flirt and do nothing. Finally, the manager looks at her and he's like, oh, I need to talk to you real quick. Long story short, he fires her and he's just telling her that they're trying to make the bookstore a little more hip. They're trying to have younger workers, on, and he dismisses her. And she takes this journal with her and she kind of steals it, but she thinks of it like, that's my parting gift, I guess. She gets to her apartment and she finds out her rent, which she has barely been scraping by to pay, is going up double. From here, you find out that she has all these ceramic little dolls that she collects. She buys like 1 or 2 a year because her income is so little that she really doesn't have like money to spare. But she buys these ceramic figures and she calls them her loved ones. And she feels like she hears their voices in her head. They're the ones that encourage her to be good, on and on. Now she gets this phone call from her aunt Nadine. And her Aunt Nadine is like my favorite character. She's awful. She's terrible, but like her lines are so funny. And Nadine is telling her like that she's at the end of her life. She's about to die and she needs somebody to take care of her until she does. And she hasn't spoken to Mary in like decades. So this was a long shot, but she basically just caught Mary at the perfect time. So Mary's like, I have nothing here. Let me go. From here, Mary goes to the small town where she grew up to take care of her Aunt Nadine. And Mary has these like recollections of being bullied as a kid, but now that she has like people that knew her as a kid, the story doesn't always add up. So Mary will be like, I was bullied. And Nadine will be like, what are you talking about? You were the one that... And she just doesn't finish the sentence. So it's disorienting Mary and things are just going on around her that don't add up. She notices this town is just odd. People are moving in different ways. She sees matching tattoos here and there, or like the symbol of an eye frequently, and it weirds her out. And basically the town is always gathered around the Cross Manor. So the place where all the murders took place, that is now a hospital and a school and all these other things. It's kind of like where the community gathers, which she finds odd. And then she notices that like the kids are dressed very similarly. There's not like bright colors. They're just muted colors, and like all the kids are wearing the same clothes, but it's not a uniform. So all these little things are just like sticking under her skin. And Nadine is a conspiracy nut. And she's a shut-in, she's a recluse. And one of the cops later on says like this town is either full of weirdos or like recluses, people that don't want anything to do with society, but they want to be left alone. And one thing that I have in common with Nadine is her favorite books are these like time, life, mysteries of the unknown. Just to give you an idea of how nutty these books are, it's like cosmic duality, utopian visions, alien encounters, mystic places. When I was a little girl, my brother had bought one and I was obsessed with it. And I was obsessed with this book to the point where my mom took it away from me because she was just like, it's not good for you. You're getting, because it's a conspiracy type of thing. And the book that we had was Mysteries of the Unknown or Mysterious Places or something. And it was just like, you know, Bermuda Triangle, that kind of thing. When I got older, I found like the full collection on eBay and I bought them. I think I've only had them for like 3-4 years, but it was one of those things that I was just like so happy I was able to get. One of my favorite lines that Nadine says in the book is when Mary is giving her a sponge bath. She was like, Jesus, Mary, put your back into it. I feel like I'm being tongue fucked by a German Shepherd with a brain injury. Like everything she says is just like nutty. Here on out, while Mary is in the town, new murders are taking place, things aren't adding up. And it was just a really good book. It had me hooked from the beginning to the end. I did get this book from my library and I need to buy it. Like I need to own it, and I've already pre-ordered Nat Cassidy's next book that's called Nestlings. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. Alright, so I am going to Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood in a couple days, and I wanted to look over the website and see what I have to look forward to. I feel like I haven't enjoyed Horror Nights as much as I did before 2020. You know what I mean? Like they made a lot of cuts that I feel like they should be better by now, but they haven't been. First thing is, I feel like the ceremonies haven't really been done right. 2019, was it 2019 or 2018? So 2018 Scaramony was good. It was based on Trick or Treat, but it wasn't my favorite. 2019 was my favorite Scaramony. It was, I forgot what the theme was. I think it was Ancient Evil. It was really good. It got everybody hyped. 2020, obviously there was no Horror Nights. 2021, they did not have a Scaramony because it was like after the restrictions were lifted, they still didn't want people like crowding around, so there was really no Scaramony. And ever since then, they haven't done it the way it was done before. I think just to limit crowding or whatever. But I'm hoping that we get like a decent Scaramony this year. As for the mazes, okay, we have Stranger Things 4. And it says, band together with your squad to resist Vecna's gruesome curse as you take on the scariest season of Stranger Things yet. So it was like the scariest season of Stranger Things, so I do have hope that it will be a good maze. I think the first year was my favorite Stranger Things maze, where you had Hawkins' lab on the outside, but we will see. The next one is The Exorcist Believer. The movie doesn't come out till October 23, so I feel like it's not going to make a lot of sense walking through. But once you watch the movie, you're going to reflect back and say like, oh, okay, I get it. We have The Last of Us. I have not watched The Last of Us, and I started to this week just because like I wanted to be caught up when I went to Horror Nights. But from what I understand, this is based more on the video game than the show. So there is that. The next haunted house is Chucky Ultimate Kill Count. And I think this is based off the sci-fi show, which I did enjoy, and it's Chucky. Like, it'll be cute. Fun, scary, sorry. Then we have Universal Monsters Unmasked. Descend into the catacombs where you and your squad will face a new horde of monsters. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Phantom of the Opera, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and the Invisible Man. So Universal always does their traditional monsters. That's usually a decent one. The next one is Evil Dead Rise. I did watch the movie and I did enjoy it. And the apartment was kind of cool because it was very old. And I feel like this will be a good maze as well. The Terror Tram is going to be themed The Exterminators. And it says, Terror Tram is back and this time the bugs are taking over. Tour guide Larry Larva and his bug-headed exterminators are out to get rid of human pests once and for all. You'll be dropping like flies. I feel like I enjoy it when there is a fun maze to go through. Like they're all like possession, murder heavy. It's fun to go through like a fun little maze. Like the Ghostbusters maze. Which one else? Trick or Treat. There was another fun one. I can't think of them, but like when there's like, it feels like a palate cleanser, you know, to have like a silly, spooky maze to go through. They're going to have these scare zones, which Holidays in Hell is usually one that is always done. Oh, and they have Monsters of Latin America. That'll be a fun one. I think when I was at Universal last, I saw that they had like Surfer Boy Pizza, which is like from Stranger Things. I think that's like the only themed food that I saw. They used to go all out with themed foods and snacks and stuff. I haven't seen that in recent years, which is kind of a disappointment. But at the same time, there's times where I'm too grossed out too. There was one year where they had like Leatherface's barbecue and I was like, no thank you. So yeah, but I am excited to go and see what it's like. It is one of my favorite nights of the year and I'll see if I film some of it. I can't tell you why I struggle with ending videos, but I do. So thank you for watching and goodbye.